by God's grace, I'm doing very well.
First, I wanted to clarify something. There are people who still link you to Forte Estates. Are you with them?
No, I'm no longer with the Forte Estate.
So you no longer work with Forte Estate at all?
No. So I'm full-time in school, but I do this. I will not say on the side because I do voluntary. I don't get paid for what I've been doing for the past 2 years. I mean, the journalism I've been doing for the past 2 years, I don't get paid for that. So.
Okay. So for the past 2 years, you've not been with Forte Estates?
No.
Oh, okay. You've been in school?
Yes. I went to Harvard for a year's fellowship, and then I have started another program, creative writing, in a different universities in Nebraska.
Well, the letter that we've seen on Green, that was addressed to you, right?
Yes.
And give us a bit of a background. How did you end up with a letter from the presidency on the contract? What happened?
I have been doing stories on this contract since 2013, and main issues have been the poor payment of the workers, the fact that Zoomlion takes 850 cedis per the latest deal which expired. 850 cedis, they are paid 250, and the company takes 600 per person. And if you do the numbers, Zoomlion makes 27 million cedis every month from this deal as management fees, while the poor workers go home with only 250 cedis. And if you want to divide it by the number of days they work in a month, each day's wage cannot buy water by the roadside or even kenke. And I find that very unfortunate. There is also the part that the numbers are questionable. On paper, Zoomlion claims to have 45,000. The YEA cannot authenticate this number. And there are reports that the people who are supposed to work don't even show up in most assemblies. And there's evidence to that effect. But the company gets paid, and the assemblies have to use their own internally generated funds to do more or pay for more work. So it is a whole lot of issues, corruption and all of that. So I decided to petition the president, and then the president responded.
And now the president has written to you with some clear. First of all, they are telling you that they are not renewing the contract. Is that acceptable to you? That the contract in its current form should not be renewed?
Yes, I think it is the boldest decision anybody has taken on this contract, and perhaps on Zoomlion. And I think I applaud the president. Except that there is some clarity we need. That is, that contract shouldn't be awarded to any company. Every assembly in this country can supervise its sweepers. So we don't need a third-party company to take money as a middleman to do supervision and take so much money. The assemblies can do that. If the money is given to them and they pay the workers well, the people will be willing to show up and sweep.
Okay, and I'll come back to that, what you just said. But first, I also wanted to come to the matter of the auditing, because you're talking about the numbers. The presidency says all monies that have been paid, and though maybe because Zoomlion, I was just speaking to their communications officer who indicates that they are still owed monies. So the monies that they are owed, that are supposed to pay them, will be subject to auditing.
Yes.
Is that a good move?
It was one of the recommendations I made in my petition to the president.
That all those payments should be audited? both
Yes,
past.
because I suspect that the claims Zoomlion is making are, I mean, in terms of the money, the claims are more than what we actually owe. So if auditing is done, we should be able to claw back some money.
So you're suggesting that is it 48,000 people that they say they have? They do not.
45,000.
45,000. They do not have this 45,000
No.
people.
No, the YEA actually conducted a head count in 2018 thereabouts, and then did a press conference and announced that its head count revealed 38,000, but even with the 38,000, many of them didn't have appointment letters, meaning they got into the program without recourse to the YEA, which means that somebody is benefiting, because any additional person you add to the numbers, Zoomlion benefits because the company is paid based on these numbers. So we have evidence that the state, when it did its headcount, got 38,000, and then Zoomlion presents 45,000. This was around 2018, 2019. Then 2022, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly wrote to the YEA requesting a list of the people who were to sweep there, because they couldn't have the numbers. Zoomlion was taking the money, but they couldn't see who was coming to sweep there. So they wrote to the YEA. YEA still couldn't provide the details. So this shows that the company, that is Zoomlion, appears to wield the monopoly over this information, and people don't show up, but the company presents 45,000 every month and then gets payment. So I want the state to at least take steps to verify before any payments are made to the company. That's Zoomlion.
So you're saying there's even government itself has had adequate grounds to decide whether or not to continue this contract based on what they saw was misreporting of the numbers.
Exactly. Because the press conference that Justin Kudiasinpon, who is now the General Secretary of NPP, held, he said that the YEA asked Zoomlion to authenticate its numbers with the payroll it uses. But the company did not do that. So, like you rightly said, it is a straightforward matter, but as to why they kept on, and in 2022, the same problem came up, to the extent that the YEA CEO had to go and meet the Greater Accra Regional Minister with the AMA boss. Then the immediate past YEA CEO even took steps to try to get this contract terminated, because the company wasn't delivering. He went to see people like Kandapa to try to lobby them to bring their influence to bear. He went to see Gabriel Chiradako, and Gabriel Chiradako sent him to the office of the president all over this contract, because he was the CEO, head of the management of the Youth Employment Agency, and was convinced that we didn't need this contract. But for whatever reason nobody can explain, they still pushed the deal through. So, like you rightly said, this deal should have been off since 2013, when I did the JIDA investigation and revealed so much about this contract.
Well, it seems like, because the suggestion from, and I'm wondering what you're reading into what government says it will be the way forward. You're talking about sanitation contracts being subject to competitive bidding, and 2 being done at the local level, district, and regional levels. But you are saying that as far as you're concerned, this particular arrangement with the IEA should be run by the YEA alone without the involvement of a third party?
The YEA and the assemblies.
Okay.
Because the sweepers are based on the assemblies, and every assembly has a sanitation and waste management unit. So the YEA will recruit, and then the waste and sanitation management unit of the assembly will supervise them to sweep. That is my point. We don't need a third-party company because the YEA has been running other models. It doesn't use companies. So if it is doing a fire service model, the YEA will recruit the people and give the people to the fire service to run. In this case, the sweepers are paid from the Assembly's common fund. So if you recruit people from Bongo district to sweep Bongo or Keta municipality to sweep Keta, then give it to the Assembly. The Assembly would allocate them. They know where they need them most and the number, so that at the end of the day, the people will work with the Assembly. The Assembly can have control over them. The Assembly can pay them well and use them as they deem fit. So this is what I'm suggesting.
But because Zoomlion says it will also offer other services to government. On the other aspect of sanitation contracts in general, do you agree with the competitive bidding at the local level?
Yeah, there's this contract for the lifting of the waste. So this, what we are talking about now, is only for the sweepers. When the people go to sweep the market and they put the refuse in the communal containers, those big containers, when Zoomlion is lifting them, Zoomlion has a different contract to lift it to the disposal site. Then at the disposal site, Zoomlion has a different contract to manage the disposal site. And Zoomlion has 3 separate fumigation contracts, all within the assembly. That's where the contracts are supposed to be done. There used to be these Saman people, the sanitary inspectors, the assemblies had. When Zoomlion came onto the scene, they collapsed that and gave them the contract to Zoomlion. They called the sanitation guards. So that is how bad the system is. So the only contract that I think the assemblies will need now will be the one for the lifting. Because if the a particular assembly doesn't have the track to do it, they will need a third-party company. So if they subject it to competitive bidding, I don't have a problem.
But you also talk about the management of the disposal sites.
Yes. The assemblies can do that. There was the Yea And Assemblies, there's an assembly there. I went there and the district coordination director said at the time Zoomlion was charging 80,000 cedis a quarter. And the year was like 320,000 cedis for that work. But his assembly got machines and they did it for 20,000 cedis a year. Yeah, this Canon North district of the Bono region at the time. So, something that could be done for 20,000 cedis was being done for 320,000 cedis under Zoomlion. So, most of the assemblies have the capacity to deliver, and we don't actually need every contract to do that. Contract a third-party company to do that.
Now, I'm sure when you started on this fight or this campaign, you were expecting to get to a certain point where you say that perhaps the objective and aims have been achieved, whatever your aim was, whatever your objective was. This letter from the presidency, is it done for you?
No, it is not done for me. And the company still has a number of dubious deals. I know they will try to find their way into the assemblies and all. But even beyond Zoomlion, if the assembly is giving these contracts to any other company beyond Zoomlion, I think we should still be concerned and monitor to ensure that we have value for money. So if it is not Zoomlion, another company gets this contract and it's bad, we still have to be worried. So I think what the president has done is to set in motion a process. But if we don't police the process, some people would want to profit from it.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Manasseh Azure is investigative journalist. Now, he is talking about what happens subsequently. And that's the big question of, okay, so now you say to move to the district level. Would you still maintain this YEA third-party contract? He says, we do not need it. Somehow, by listening to everybody, I feel I'm of the opinion that I don't think that particular arrangement really does add up.